Let's go to Cali in Bowling Green. Going back to Cali. What's up?
Hey, Dr. John, how are you?
We are rocking on to the break of dawn. How about you?
I'm wonderful. I just want to say I'm super thankful for everything that you've brought to our community and that you put out there. I'm one of the OGs.
Yes.
I've been listening since episode 1. So
Were you one of the original 17?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you.
No problem.
So what's up?
So I'm calling today because I coach a high school volleyball team, and that comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
But we have been really struggling on teaching our girls how to communicate with one another. And on top of that, learning to be vulnerable on top of the communicating piece.
Yeah.
And I just wanted your advice on how to kind of facilitate that with high school girls.
As a former high school, I'm just kidding. So I thought you were about to say, hey, we're struggling on offense. And I was going to have to tell you, I don't really know how volleyball works. I just know that they go in a line. So good. This one's an easier question for me to answer. And I used to be a high school coach too. And it's one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. So good for you. Are you enjoying it? Do you like the influence in their life?
I absolutely love it. I have a full-time job year-round, but this is something that I also do year-round. We coach high school from July to October, and then I turn around and coach club ball for the same high school girls from December until May.
Very
so it never
cool.
ends.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's what I've seen. And working with high school and college kids over the last couple of decades, I've seen in a way that I don't think most adults, most 35 and 45-year-olds and older, fully grasp just how much relationship has moved on into digital exchanges. Like even asking like my middle schooler and all his friends, like when you go with somebody, right? You give a girlfriend, you never even make eye contact. You don't see each other. It's all text and photos and emoji. Like everything's been outsourced there. And so you're getting a lot of information, but it's interesting. I haven't talked to a high school coach, but it doesn't surprise me that then when they get in a real life situation where they have to basically read each other's minds and know I'm going to be here in this space and you got to look at my body position and I've got to holler at you and say, hey, go, that their brains don't just shut down. Right. So give me an example of situations where they're not being vulnerable, where they need to communicate better. Give me an example of that.
So I'll kind of give you a little bit of a background. Last season, this is probably the most talented group I've ever coached, hands down. They're very young, primarily sophomores. We have a few seniors that kind of lead the group, but even some of them are struggling with communication. But we've started working with a sports psychologist last year. She did wonderful work, but we were unable to afford her this year. High school budget. Volleyball doesn't make that cut.
Way to go, America.
Very, very much so. So I've kind of tried to step in that role and start doing some small and large group activities with them after practice, just to learn to communicate off the court, hoping that it will transfer onto the court. So on the court, they're just having issues where they literally will not talk to each other. They're running into each other. Something will happen. And us as coaches feel like we're having to spoon feed them everything to say and do.
Gotcha.
And they are physically capable of knowing exactly what to do and what to say. But it's just that awkwardness, that tension, and even some of the small group activities we've been doing with them after practice to get them to open up to each other, to even say something they like about themselves. It's like terrible. It's so awkward.
Yeah.
They do not feel comfortable whatsoever.
Okay, so let's back all the way out. Ultimately, there's two things at play. One, there's trust, and one, there is just a skill set, okay? I do believe that we're going to have hell to pay because we're going to have a generation of people that don't have the skills to communicate in person with one another, right? And I think you're experiencing, like, I don't even know how to tell you that I'm uncomfortable. I can text it to you. I can DM you and let you know how I'm feeling, but I can't say that to you, right? And for you and me, who grew up saying it first and texting it second, that feels insane, but that's the reality, right? The second one is trust. And here's I think you earn trust one of three ways, if not all three: play, sharing meals, and shared experiences. I've got to know you're going to be there, and I have to have these exchanges over food, over play, that is going to allow me to then, my brain to feel safe enough to say, hey, I don't think I look good in this, or I don't like the way you talk to me on the court, right? So I've got to set a context. And so I'd love to reframe it. And these aren't adjunct things. So even the language like, hey, we do these things after practice, I would love for you to include them into practice. This is a part of who we are. And I'm thinking back to little things that my coaches have made. Like we had a weekly team dinner during season where we'd all get together. I'm going to send you every single deck of questions for humans that I got. Okay?
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
I started I have breakfast with my son once a week, and we're doing a book exchange and stuff. I even took them with me this last week, and they were a blast. I'd forgotten that I'd written some of these questions out, but we had a great time, but it allowed a different level of conversation between me and my son. When you have a deck of cards like that, when you have some sort, even if you just go find an app, I'm sure there's a million apps out there, when you can point to the question, the deck of cards ask the question, not you. And it makes it safer for some reason, okay? It depersonalizes it in a way. But what I would recommend is saying, okay, from this point forward, we're going to cut practice short on Thursdays by 30 minutes because they're good, right? What they need to do is learn to talk and trust, and that's going to help accelerate their connectivity as they function as a single unit on the court. But I'm going to ask you to stay 30 minutes longer than you normally would, and we're going to have a team dinner. And whether that's pizza or whether that's spaghetti, I think we used to do spaghetti dinners, and the parents made it and brought it. And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was a disaster. But we shared that experience. Here's another thing. Have you tried to go first?
I have.
How's that go?
And I told them that I firmly believe in leading by example.
Good for you.
So anytime that I ask them a question, I answer it first. And I've probably admitted things, opened up about things that I typically wouldn't in front of high school girls. But I feel like they need to see that, and they need to see a coach be vulnerable.
Yes.
My problem is I'm only an assistant. I'm one of 4 coaches.
Okay.
And their head coach is a male, and he's a very good friend of mine, and he would never participate in this.
Why not?
So I guess that's a twofold. I'm the only one kind of spearheading this, and I've got a great relationship with the girls because of it. But to get him and the other coaches involved is a challenge of its own.
Why won't he play?
He, just full honesty, comes up with his job is to win games.
Yep. Okay.
Which I understand. But
I
in
do
order
too.
to win games, I feel like you have to connect.
That's exactly right. So he's playing a very short game, right? He's like a modern corporation that's like, I got to make earnings in this quarter, and they forget that they're playing a long game, right? And so you can you can sprint and sprint and sprint, and eventually your company's going to go away. Very similar. He's going to win some games out of some talented kids, and he's going to move on to a new place and leave these kids there. That's hard. Okay, I wish there was an easy. I've worked with head coaches. They're hard. It's hard. There's a lot of ego there. There's a lot of this is my team. And that language, right? This is my group of humans that I run and own and whatever. That's going to be hard. I think the best you can do is just be the positive influence that you can. And would he support team dinners? Would he support team play or cutting practice short? Or does it all have to be something you do after he gets done with his practice?
I think I could convince him. We're really, we went to college together. We're close friends. So he's very stubborn, but I can typically get through to him eventually.
Okay.
But I think team dinners is definitely something we could do. Here's
where the team dinners are important. On Thursdays, we do team dinners. There are no electronics allowed. None. 0. Everyone's going to make it. On Monday, as a warm-up or the first thing we do, we're going to do some crazy agility drill that is team-driven. Coaches will not participate. There's an over-coaching that's happening with young athletes also, that every move is prescriptive. This idea that they're just going to go play, that we don't do that anymore because we got to win games. And by winning games, I'm going to give you this play, and you got to run this play in this way. And so they literally don't know how to take a next step because every step has been prescribed for them since they were 3 years old. And there's something about letting them just go. We're going to give you 5 minutes so y'all figure this game out, and this is how this game works. And here's the 4 coaches, and we're going to demonstrate how it goes. And y'all are competing against this other, the A squad's going to compete against the B squad. We're going to make them do some of these things, but we're not going to overcoach them. We're going to back out a little bit.
Okay.
And I was the worst. The worst. This is the pot talking the kettle here. Man, every mistake my first year of coaching, every mistake I called out. You threw the ball away, you did it. And after my first year, I had some coaches lean into me a little bit because I was a young, hot-headed, knuckle-headed moron. And they said, dude, you know who knows that they just dribbled that ball off their knee into the stands more than anybody? That kid. You yelling it across the gym isn't helpful. He knows. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was such a good reminder, especially in practice, to dial back my coaching and dial up my engagement. Meaning I'm going to be much more relational and less, I see that one, I see that one, I see that. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to coach effort. I'm going to coach spacing. I'm going to coach paying attention much more than move over, left, go, up. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't know if that's going on in your practices. That sure went on in my practice, man, because I was just over-coaching, and I paralyzed the kids when I did that. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're not a coach, all of this applies to parenting. We over-parent, and we hey, you got this, you do this, you got this, you do this. You got your deodorant, you brush your teeth, did you get your shoes? Just today, my son left his track shoes, his cross-country shoes, inside. And I asked my wife as I was leaving, you want me to run these to the school? It's 20 minutes out of the way this way, and I got to go 20 minutes back. She said, no. He'll just have to do practice in whatever shoes he's wearing. And that's probably going to be a very uncomfortable 3-mile run in the woods. And I assure you he's going to remember his shoes, right? This is just the way we move forward, right? Oh, man. All right, so Callie, hang on the line here. I'm going to send you all of the questions for humans cards. And by the way, if you have people in your life, whether they're teens, adults, couples, you just started dating, you've been dating a long time, you've been married a long time, there's cards for everybody. Girls' night, guys' night, friends, just hanging out, having chips and queso and having a few beers, whatever it is, grab these cards. They're tools to teach us again how to have in-person communication, how to have in-person conversations. And man, all over the planet, people are writing and saying these things are changing their families and changing their friendships. Go pick some up. JohnDelony.com.